Hello, Internet, and welcome to the Free-to-Play Cast, episode 117. We're recording on 11/17. Normally we record on Tuesdays. This week we're doing it on a Monday. That's because Mr. Winter's about to go undercover for some secret work that he can't talk about yet. But here he is, as he is always weak. Mr. Jason Winter, how are you, sir?
I'm not one of those Bothan spies who's gonna die, am I?
I have no idea, man. You might. It's risky business. Unfortunately, Our viewers will have to wait until next week to see what all this secrecy is about. So you're still watching the show on Thursday, but we're recording it on Monday. So let's get out and cover the news. All right, first off this week, NCSoft is making a ton of money.
Dollar bill.
Dollar.
Or Korean won.
Yeah, however you want to break it down, in whatever currency you choose, they're making a ton of money. But what might be surprising are the games they're making it from, particularly for us in the West. So let's break it down. I'm going to show you some Lineage 2 footage. We're going to talk about Lineage 2 a little bit as we go here. But, hey, I'm in North America. Jason's in North America. We haven't been able to play Lineage 1 since, like, 2011. So there you go with your Lineage 2 footage while we talk about this. So maybe not so surprisingly, Jason, we all kind of knew that Lineage 1... the original, the Big Daddy, was huge, right? I mean, that was a big game even back in the day, the World of Warcraft days. That was, if we could get a market like that, Blizzard said, we'll do just fine, right? We'll do just fine. But it is still kicking ass and taking names. We all knew it was kind of big in the East. It's a third of NCSoft's quarterly revenue for quarter 3. Were you surprised?
Maybe that it was that much. That's a whole third. But yeah, again, it's like RuneScape. I think it's that game that we know is huge somewhere, just not here. Like we know it has millions of players or whatever, but we just never talk about it in this part of the world.
And obviously, it's older. It's starting to look dated by the graphical standards. Well, starting,
like RuneScape.
Yeah, starting might be a bit generous.
It's gone there, and
yeah, it's beyond that. I mean, even Lineage 2 looks a bit dated, and Lineage Eternal kind of going a different way with it. They're going to be showing that off at G-Star later this week. Right around the time you're watching this video, G-Star will have started, and NCSoft will have playable Lineage Eternal there. But that's kind of looking more like an action RPG, like a Diablo. So I really don't see it pulling a ton of people away. Do you?
No, not really. I mean, it's going to have some impact. It's got the Lineage name at least, and it might be something that draws in people a little more casual, more into the really hardcore kind of MMO experience. Because, like I said, it looks more the Diablo-like, a little more clicky, actiony. So that might help a little bit.
Right behind them, well, I shouldn't say right behind them in second.
Way behind.
Not right behind them in revenue. Literally about half of the operating profit for Q3. Ion. Which
I think, again, is one of those games that it's actually, I mean, it's done better in the West than we think it has, just because they've had it for, like, 5 years, I think. I think it was 2009 that it came out, maybe 2008.
And they did a full, almost revamp of it for Western audiences, because it's still a bit grindy if you go into it.
Yeah,
but at launch, good Lord, was it grindy. You know, I was grinding on mobs in between quests as early as like level 7, level 8, just to polish off the tail end of levels, but to get the next couple of quests. So it has evolved a lot in the West. But man, in the East, they still love their Ion. I love Ion. I enjoy the idea of, and they added some more in the latest expansion, like solo dungeons. I know you're one of those, why play an MMO if you're going to play solo, right? But
yeah.
I like the idea of solo dungeons and those offshoot things where, hey, none of my buddies are on right now. Let me knock something out, so at least I still have some type of progression going while I wait for my buddies to log on for that bigger raid or that big PvP thing. Really surprising that this was like the top tier of NCSoft's very, very profitable portfolio. I mean, when we look at these numbers, we're not just looking at money made, right? We're looking at operating profit too.
Yeah.
What
After
is the
expenses.
bottom line? What are they taking home at the end of the day after they've paid for the servers and the employees and the development and QA and all that stuff? And man, is it good to be an NCSoft bigwig right now.
And maybe that's how it is when you have an older game like that, something that doesn't require necessarily a whole lot of attention or, a whole lot of processing power on your servers or expansions every other month or whatever. If you have those people who are still there and still playing it, and you can not spend a whole lot on keeping it up, money.
Well, then Sony Online's probably rolling in bank.
Well, you still have to have the players though.
Oh, that's true. Hey, man, EverQuest 2 still kicking. Still kicking. I actually did a gameplay action video that'll be going up this week of EverQuest 1. Just figured it was a good time to jump into it because our footage was so old on our EverQuest first look and with the 21st expansion and everything. So here's what might surprise you, though. Guild Wars 2, buy-to-play, doing pretty well, Blade and Soul, not available in the West yet. So there's still a market that's not tapped into for Blade and Soul, and there's a lot of people looking forward to it in the West here. I'm not one of them, to be honest.
I'm sure this Korean grinder won't be anything like the previous Korean grinders that have all disappointed us.
I'm definitely going to jump in and play it, right? But I'm not I don't think it's going to be the next coming of the MMORPG or anything. I mean, it's an older game already, and it hasn't even come out here. But what really surprised me, and did this even register on the Jason Winter analysis? It really hasn't grown in the East. If you look at Q1, Q2, Q3, it's revenues and its operating profits are just holding steady. Not going up, not going down. I mean, I guess that's a good thing. It's not going down. But for as hyped as this game is for a Western release at some point, I was surprised not to see it growing in China, where things like Lineage and Ion are still huge moneymakers.
Well, how long has it been out, though? Let's see. It says it released in Korea in June 2012 and China in November 2013. So the China launch is a little more recent. So I mean, maybe it's just settled. It's gotten to that point where it's just settled into whatever it is. Which, being only a year or two after launch, might seem a little harsh. But how many MMOs do we think of that are still growing 2 years after their launch anyway?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Most of them are on the decline, if anything.
Yeah.
2 to 3 years after launch, and being 1 year out of China, I would have expected to see a little more growth there. I mean, it's totally flatline. It's not even close. It's just 19.
Maybe that's part of why we haven't really gotten anything official about it coming out in North America. Maybe they're just not sure that it'll do that well.
Could be. Bringing up the rear, well, almost the rear.
That's true. Yeah, Lineage 2 technically is the rear, but...
Yeah, Lineage 2 was the low dog on the totem pole, if you're looking at the entire totem pole. But right above them, and not by much, WildStar. Wow. Yeah. Like, we all knew it was suffering. We talked about it a few weeks ago and having problems and layoffs, and is it going to go free-to-play? And Zach brought it up on Free-to-Play Weekly last week that, is it going to go free-to-play? Everybody seems to think it is. It's just a matter of, we all argue over time now. Is it going to do it next month or next year? But wow, were these numbers surprising? I mean, Guild Wars 2, buy-to-play, no subscription model, pummeled it. Lineage, Ion, even I can't even comprehend what's in their others category. I'm assuming that may be like smaller mobile things that they do in other countries,
sure.
But even their other category beat WildStar.
Well, okay, that's like a bunch of games, but sure, I get that. But yeah, I mean, especially the big issue is the decline on WildStar from second quarter to third quarter.
You got beat by our collection of Farmville knockoffs.
Farmville knockoffs have made more money for us this year than you have, and you launched. Granted, they weren't around in the first quarter, but still.
Yeah, and it was a pretty big drop-off between Q2 and Q3, and you and I talked about it, and you said, well, that's kind of to be expected. It launched in Q2 at like pretty much at the beginning or midway point of Q2, Q3 changeover, so it was expected, but it was almost a 43% drop-off in revenues. Which I thought, I expect a drop-off from launch day to the following quarter as far as overall revenues. But, man, that's almost half the money you made. And if you were the one that pulled all the math out, and it didn't look good from a development cycle if you just broke it down to the max number of dollars it could potentially be.
Yeah, I made it out to be something like like 450,000 sales or something possibly of the
Yeah.
game. And of course, as we know, a lot of people have left since then. So how many are left in the game? 100, 200,000 at most for a game that was AAA. Yeah, had the box price, had the sub, had supposed to be a huge thing. To only have 200,000 or so players is just not gonna.
Yeah, and dollar-wise, that broke down to, I think we mathed it at about, what, 25 to 35 million in revenues U.S., which that's got to be a drop in the bucket as far as development, right? I mean, this wasn't a $10 million MMO. Say what you will about the gameplay or the grind or the attunement or whatever, I think we can at least all agree that, to some extent, WildStar was one of the most polished MMOs on its launch day to have a full feature set. Yeah, bugs. Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a complemented feature set, graphics. It was pretty high up there in the development tables.
They said even after laying off 60 people, they had over 200 people in their studio. So you've got that plus whatever contractors were there before. So you got at least 300 plus people working on this game who helped create it. So
kudos to NCSoft and Lineage, man. Whew.
Yeah.
I bet they're really excited about Lineage Eternal now. Like,
well, I mean, on the one hand, yeah, but on the other hand, you look at Lineage 2 as compared to Lineage 1, which again might be a reason why they're kind of hesitant about bringing it out. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about Blade and Soul.
Yeah, Blade and Soul. I don't know. Good quarter. Good quarter for NCSoft. NCSoft's one of those companies, though, that I love to hate.
Well, everybody has like 3 companies or 4 companies like that. But.
Perfect World is the one that I hate on the most as far as cash shop models go. NCSoft has this knack for really, at least in the West here, because there are some variations with some of these models when you get from North America to the EU and the further east. But they have this tendency that I look at one game and I'm like, you know what? That's a really nice way to do the cash shop. Ion in the United States is an example of that. I think it's a very, very decent.
And that's what I think it is. I think it's when they let their Western companies handle the cash shop. We like it. Like you talk about that. Most people like Guild Wars 2, and of course WildStar, you don't really have a cash shop at all. But whereas Lineage or Lineage 2, whatever.
And our poor friends in the EU, man. I don't like Ion's monetization in EU. I didn't know there was a difference. I really don't. And that Terra's another one where the monetization here is slightly different in the EU, and I don't like it in the EU. I like it here. So yeah, hey, kudos to them. Good job, and we'll see WildStar on the free-to-play flip. It's coming, man. And I think there's another big one. You and I talked about behind the scenes. We're not gonna say names of games though. I seem to think that there's another big name going free-to-play soon. You disagree with me. We'll talk about it on a future show once we find out a little bit more as the fiscal year starts to close. I think
it's not World of Warcraft.
It's not World of Warcraft. I think we're gonna see another AAA one go free-to-play very, very soon here. Sooner than most people maybe think. But I could be talking on my rear. Who knows? Who knows? Let's move on. We've got this one was weird. I didn't see this coming until I typed it up, and yeah, it came out of nowhere. Otherland. Do you remember this?
I did a little bit, just from an article that we did in our magazine many years ago.
No way. What did you guys write about? What happened?
Yeah, we one of our writers just basically wrote about the game, wrote about what it was. I had never heard of it before this. Apparently, you've read the books and you're like a big pro on all this stuff.
Oh, love Tad Williams. Tad Williams.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, so Otherland, based on Tad Williams' novels, sci-fi-ish, MMO, RPG. You probably heard about it 2 years ago.
3 years. This was a
yeah.
3
years ago. That's when it was under Gamigo was going to be the publisher at the time, and then it went away. Yeah, things weren't looking good for the development house. Who was it? Real You. Real You, as in not the fake you. Real You. So yeah, they had a bunch of people laid off when their parent company DTP Entertainment went into insolvency. They're still around actually. DTP survived that, but Otherland didn't until now.
You know what else is still around? I'm actually finding an old article that I did on Game Breaker where I referenced Otherland. and
Oh, wow.
I linked it to the Gamigo Otherland site. That's still there.
Yeah, the site's still there. It's actually really confusing if you try to go and Google this game. And I'm sorry I'm not showing
German.
footage. I'm going to pull up a portion of the Otherland trailer in just a minute here, but obviously there's not much footage on this one yet. Yeah, it's really confusing because if you Google just Otherland and click, you're on Gamigo's site where the last updates were in 2012.
And they're in German.
Yeah, so you translate it, you're like, okay, hey, closed beta is starting 2 years ago. I have no idea what's going on. You really have to track this one down. You need Otherland, you need Drago Entertainment, or Drago Entertainment if you prefer, Drago Entertainment. That's the name of the company that now has the Otherland licenses and has continued development on this. You might know them, or maybe you don't, from Grimland's fame or infamy. You pick one, because that one didn't last long either. So it tried to kickstart, and that didn't work. I'm actually really excited for this. Now, I think they go a bit overboard on the website, just like all websites do, and they tout it as, like, the most extreme action combat and stuff like that. Okay, there's a lot of marketing hyperbole on the site, but I'm kind of excited about this. Do you care? I'm gonna show the viewers some of the trailer here because I'm pretty stoked about it.
Again, as someone who's never, what they really need to do is they need to have some more on the site about Otherland, about what it's about, other than just because I just look at it and I see the trailer and I see some cyberpunk world and Mars and whatever. I'm like, okay, that's like one out of a billion different things. Whereas I had to go back and read the article to try and remember what this is about. And what it says here is the net of the Otherland MMO, which is like the actual game in the game. Has changed quite a bit. It experienced technical difficulties. That's where players come in to help rebuild and repopulate the worlds. They also discover that they are trapped in the net, unable to log off, and that death to their characters also means death to their real bodies. Okay, that's all. That all sounds kind of cool and more interesting than just, the 1.5-minute trailer of generic cyberpunk world. I wish they would give us more on the story and more on that sort of thing, other than just here's some shiny stuff.
Hey, the sci-fi scene as far as MMO RPGs go really, really could use a bump. And so I'm looking forward to this one.
I've never been a big cyberpunk kind of near future.
Cyberpunk? No, it's sci-fi, damn it!
Well, see, I can't even tell because I don't freaking know. I know it is. I know it isn't, but I mean, it gets that kind of near future sort of virtual reality, rah kind of stuff.
So there's a closed beta going on right now, actually. It started just this past weekend. I have no idea when it runs till. There's no dates on it. It's basically server stress testing. And so, if you got invited or you plan to head over to the Otherland website and sign up for it, plan on server crashes. I mean, that's the whole point of this particular round. And Drago Entertainment pulled note punches when they said, this is what we're doing, guys. Break it.
Nice of them to admit it.
Yeah, break it, and when you do, it's gonna take us an hour to bring it back up. But then when it'll be brought back up, break it again. I just got invited today. I don't know the rules on YouTube's and footage and stuff yet. I know that a day or two ago they were letting a few people stream up to an hour, and here's what they said: they didn't want you going past the hour mark. Character creation didn't count, because they didn't want story spoilers, which that really, really pumps me up now. Being a fan of the novels, knowing that they're trying to hide the story, I'm a big fan. I really, really hope that this time the game actually comes out rather than just disappears, and who knows what happens at that point. If this one disappears again, it's gone.
Here's where I'm going to be the negative guy again and totally crush you.
Oh, no.
So this reminds me of a little bit about an MMO that I heard a little bit about before, disappearing for a couple of years and then coming back, and then we're going to beta. We're going to launch pretty soon. It makes me feel like Gods and Heroes again.
Oh, don't say that.
That was the same thing. We got contacted by their PR guys one day out of the blue from the new company, and I was like, "Really? You guys are doing this again? And it's gonna be out in 6 months? Really?" Okay. And you talk about all this stuff like they're not telling you about the beta dates, or not giving you an idea of how much you can stream. It's just like, or they're being very coy about all this. Just gives me a not great, not shiny, 100% on target feeling about it.
Don't do that to me, Winter.
And it's not like you'd ever get overhyped for anything, so.
No, why would I ever do that? I'm excited about it. I dig the novel, so I mean, there's a certain draw to it. You know,
Sure.
If you're a Star Wars fan, then you were probably super geeked about Old Republic, that type of deal. So there's automatically a built-in draw for me, having read the novels. But outside of that, I do like the idea of something a little more sci-fi, a little more space punky, as you put it, in the landscape. Because to be honest, as much as I dig a good fantasy MMORPG, I'm kind of sick of them too.
Yeah. The problem is that so does everyone else. Or everyone else digs a fantasy MMO, which is why this almost has to try a little harder to make it. I don't know if accessible is the word I want to make it something that.
I am worried.
Traditional-ish enough.
I am worried, though, that they're not nearly doing enough to advertise the fact that this is coming back, and so it may die very quickly. I hope it doesn't, but for crying out loud, get with Gamigo and fix those search results.
Yeah. That's another point in the whole we're not really sure what we're doing kind of feeling that I get from it.
Right. Yeah, and I could totally agree on that front, because when I first saw the beta announcements, I was like, but wait, wasn't this game dead? And I had to go back and find it and everything, and spent 45 minutes sifting through Gamigo stuff from 2011, 2012. I'm like, what the hell is going on? All right, let me search for Drago Entertainment. Then I go to their website, and they still have, About Us that their lead project is Grimlands, and I'm like, that's not your lead project anymore. That got canceled. What? And finally, if you go to the other tab, it does have Otherland there, and if you click there, it takes you to the current website for the game. So you really have to dig right now to find this one. Even on Facebook, it's hard to find their official Facebook page without going to their official website and linking through there first. So they got to get that cleaned up, because people that were pumped about it when it was going to come out under published by Gamigo, I would venture that there's a lot of us that don't even know that it's supposed to be coming back yet.
No.
So I'm going to activate my key. I'm going to reach out to them and see if maybe I can't put together like a 15 or a 20-minute first look and get some footage out there on the website for people to see. We'll find out once we get the rules. I know you were allowed to post some things but not others, so I just want to get clarification before we post something and all of a sudden somebody's upset with us for releasing footage from a game that was supposed to be out 2 years ago.
Maybe it's Yvonne Drago Entertainment. If you post stuff you're not supposed to, they're gonna send Dolph Lundgren to beat you up.
I will break you. All right, moving on.
That's what they're doing with the servers. That's true. You go to the servers on their beta test. You say, "I will break you."
The servers. Last news topic for today. Let's take a look. We've got League of Legends. Yeah. What could possibly be going on with League of Legends? I know, right? What could possibly be going on with League that makes it a news story? Well, this last weekend, Riot dropped the claim on the world that the League of Legends community is getting better.
Excuse me. I almost kept a straight face.
All right. So MOBA in general kind of has a bad rep for a toxic community sometimes, particularly League of Legends being one of the big daddies of the genre, particularly toxic environment. Now, we have seen Riot take steps in the last year or so to try and weed some of that out, even to the tune of banning some pretty high-profile players, right? So here's what they did. They put out a recent post today, and here I'm going to read the quote directly because we're going to dissect this a little bit. As of 11/13/2014, so that's 4 days ago from the recording date here, 95% of active players in 2014 have never received a punishment of any kind. The vast majority of you have not received chat restrictions, ranked restrictions, game bans, or permanent bans this year. They put an exclamation point on the end of that. Like, congratulations, you didn't get yourself...
You don't suck.
Yeah, you didn't get banned. Good job. So here's where I kind of start going, I don't know about this. I don't know if I'd be advertising that, hey, the community is getting better, because to me... I majored in calculus in college, right? So I
Wow,
know a
so
little
you should
bit.
know that whole magic trick thing.
Right, I know a little bit about math, as it were. And to me, saying that 95% of the active players have never received a punishment is kind of like saying out of all the drug dealers out there in the world, 5% have received jail time, so the other 95% must be fine, upstanding citizens.
Oh, come on now. Comparing League of Legends players to drug
Now,
dealers.
I'm not comparing them to drug dealers themselves. I'm comparing this statistic to a real-life scenario.
Well, but I would agree that maybe somewhat less than 95% of League of Legends players are okay. As opposed to all the drug dealers being crappy.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Again, my analogy is not drug dealers to League of Legends players. It's stat to stat. And when you put it in one context, you see that the stat really doesn't make a lot of sense.
Let's talk about like baseball players. 95% of baseball players have never been caught using steroids.
Right. So therefore, the other 95% are clean.
A lot of them don't use them at all, but some of them do and don't get caught. So, you know.
Right. So the other 90, that might be a better analogy. All right. I'll go with you. That's a better analogy. Because then there's innocence being caught up in there as well. So here's the thing. Not only that, but 95% tells me that 1 out of every 2 League of Legends match is going to have a douche in it.
Which could be you.
But 10 players per match, 5 on each team, 2 matches, 5%. That means 1 out of 20. So one person going to be a douche in every 2 games that you play if you extrapolate the math out. The other thing that I don't think is really telling about this statistic is just because you didn't get punished doesn't mean you weren't a jerk in game, right?
You just weren't a big enough jerk.
Yeah. Yeah. There's varying degrees of jerkhood.
Or the other people were enough of jerks that they just figured, well, I won't report them and they won't report me, so hell with it.
Right.
These are the people who are doing the baseball players who are doing the steroids and not getting caught at it, so yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I can appreciate that they're trying to do things about this, but how far can you go, really, as far as attitude in-game and language and things like that? Riot's already said, we don't want to ban foul language. We don't want to censor language. And when they did this post, they did this really cool thing where they said, if anybody would like to feel confident about having some of their chat logs shared, go ahead and throw your name down here. And they had a lot of fun bouncing back with some silly stuff people have said in different matches. And there was one where a player had used some foul language, dropped an F-bomb, said shit a couple of times, dropped some language in there, but they did it in a way that wasn't directed at other players. It wasn't directed at anybody's particular play. In fact, this particular player went out of their way to say thank you to everybody else for covering how bad their play was that particular match, and Riot used it as kind of the example of, look, we're okay with the language. If you want to use colorful and foul language, we're not out to censor you. It's the open hostility from one player to another that we're not going to tolerate. But this has got to be really hard to enforce to some degree because at some point somebody's going to have to draw a line, aren't they?
It's always going to seem arbitrary, whether that's to the person getting punished or to the person dishing out the punishment. Because obviously they don't have one guy covering all of this. They have to have multiple staff members who are probably doing it. And one of them might think that something is going too far, and the other one might think that it's not. So that eventually the person who gets banned, the person who doesn't get banned, they might compare notes and on Reddit or something and figure out, well, why did I get banned for this and he didn't for that? It was the same thing, whatever. And when you talked about having directed stuff, having stuff directed to people, it reminds me a little of, like, again, going with a sports analogy, like taunting in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Like, you can go, all right, yeah, I'm awesome. But you can't do that in someone's face. You can't do it right at them. That gets you a penalty. If you do it like to the crowd or whatever, it's fine.
Now the viewers can't see this because I'm showing League of Legends, but
gameplay.
But Jason is totally flexing on all of you.
And the thing is, and in the case of the NFL or any sport that has discipline like that, sometimes it does seem arbitrary. And sometimes people, fans especially, are like, oh, why did the referees call that? They didn't call that. So I get that's how it's going to be. And people are going to get ticked off at it, just like fans and players and coaches would ever get ticked off at sometimes seemingly arbitrary stuff going on in their games. But I guess the alternative is you do nothing. And guys can just kick people in the face whenever they feel like it. Well, we don't want to punish them. He might not have really meant to kick you in the face there. It might have been expressing himself artistically that just happened to involve kicking you in the face. But
The one thing I don't like about this is they're giving a reward to anybody, since the season's just about to end here. They're giving a reward of a 4-game IP bonus to anybody that hasn't had bans or anything like that, which to me that feels like the way you reward kindergartners for behaving. I totally hate that.
Well, I mean, on the one hand, is it better to punish people for doing crappy stuff or reward them for doing good stuff?
Reward somebody for acting like a decent human being?
Well, that's a lot to ask for sometimes in online gaming.
On the public beta, the PBE, there is an enhancement to the LeaveBuster program. If you don't know what that is, that's the automated response that Riot has in place for people that leave matches frequently and stuff like that. So they are going to be enhancing that, so that if you drop off or disconnect or go, just leave a match, it's going to give you a message that requires you to type in "I agree" and click OK, that you're not going to leave future matches. And if there's a pattern evolving out of you leaving, they're going to enforce 5, 10, or possibly even 20-minute queue delays on you that other players don't have. And then if you try to pre-made and stuff like that, people will get a flag that they're about to join a match with somebody that's known as a frequent leaver. So it looks like they're cracking down on this. Of course, the byproduct, the question that everybody probably has on their mind right now is what happens if you have a terrible connection and you DC a couple of times.
I saw that a lot mentioned in the comments, too, to that article. And, some of the responses to it was, you just got to deal with it, or don't be playing ranked or whatever if you know you have a crappy internet that's going to break out on you all the time. And some people respond back to that and are like, well, I can't help it. And my thought is just, they would say, well, I can't help it. Why should I be punished for something beyond my control? And the analogy I kept putting to it was something like a carpool. Like if you're driving the carpool to get us all to work every day, and your car breaks down once, so you can't get us to work, we're going to be like, oh, okay, that's fine, whatever. If that happens like 4 times in a month, we're going to start not wanting you to carpool us. It's not your fault. It's not your fault your car is breaking down. You don't want your car to break down, but we're not going to trust you to carpool us. We're going to look to other people to carpool with. So, yeah, it sucks that you get punished for something that isn't your fault, but if other people can't rely on you for whatever reason, they're going to stop relying on you. So,
yeah, and Riot's reply was pretty much the same thing. They said, sorry, there's nothing in the program that's going to differentiate between someone frequently leaving a match and someone frequently DCing due to connection issues. And they specifically cited the same thing that you did. They said, unfortunately, your experience is impacting up to 9 other players' experiences, and we have to take that into consideration as well. So,
or the other instance would be to take a more gaming-related thing. If you have your raid group or whatever of 10 people or 20 people, and one guy just always DCs 30 minutes in, he might be a good guy. You might want him on the raid team, but if he just keeps not being able to show up consistently because of issues, you got to replace him. There's no way around it.
Yep. So let us know in the comments what you think on both being rewarded for being a decent human being, and the LeaveBuster program, and maybe your idea on how it could accommodate, or if it should even accommodate somebody that just has a bad ISP or a bad internet connection. Leave it in the comments below, and we'll be sure to share them on next week's show. Let's move over and do the bombs. Mr. Winter, you're up first, sir.
All right, I'm doubling up this week.
Uh-oh.
Give it an A-bomb.
I think I doubled up last week, so that works.
Okay, all right, we're good. All right. I give it an A-bomb to Final Fantasy 13 on Steam, which came out about a month and a half ago. I started to try to play it, but oh my god, was it the laziest port ever. And this was all over. I tried to look online to see if I was just missing something in the options, but no, there were stories all over the place about how bad this was. One thing they had was if you press escape, it quits the game. No window pops up.
Just
doesn't
automatically.
pull up a menu like you might think a lot of games do. No, just gone.
Nice.
And also there are no resolution options. I can only play like windowed at the right aspect ratio or full screen on my monitor and have it be stretched out.
Wow.
So
see, I didn't buy it on Steam because I already have it for PS3, so
yeah. Well, apparently they fixed the escape thing. That doesn't happen anymore. And they're going to fix the resolution issues. They're going to add some of those with a patch in December. So at least that's the dub on part of it. They actually recognize this, and they're at least doing something to fix it. Now, the only thing I wish they could also do is let me remap my controller, because I have this crazy old USB controller that the buttons don't match up well with the controls in the game. So I wish I could remap them completely, but that's probably asking way too much.
So an A-bomb to your controller?
Not my fault. No, it's totally square.
Hey man, you DC'd. Your internet sucks. It's totally your fault. Mine is an A-bomb this week. To no native controller support in the PC version of PlanetSide 2, speaking of controllers. Even though the PS4 beta is set to still be on track for launching by the end of the year.
Well, that's your own fault.
Yeah, that's my own fault. Can I get some controller support on the PC version natively, so I don't have to X-pad this thing? From the viewers, Frankenstein, says A-bomb to ArcAge because I can't get it to load up. Their hack shield software bug out on me and won't update properly. I click the play button, it locks up. A few minutes later, their hack shield troubleshooting page pops up if I have a browser open. I've tried all the fixes on the page short of reinstalling the game with no success. I have to say at this point, there's no incentive to reinstall rather than uninstall. But there's an ArcAge mobile game in the works.
I'm sure if you pay just a slight fee of $10 on the cash shop, you can disable Hack Shield.
If you if you miss the ArcAge XL Games partnership to bring ArcAge to your mobile near you, check out MMOBomb.com, because I'm totally not joking. That's coming. That's a thing. Go ahead, Jason.
All right, this is from Sniperman248, which I have to really try hard not to read as Spider-Man. But it is Sniperman248. He says, I would like to give a dub-bomb to Ion, even after coming back from playing Guild Wars 2. It still is an amazing game that will always dominate the free-to-play market, with its great community, well-thought leveling system, and beautiful graphical detail, but mostly giving it a dub-bomb because I am now working on my second level 65 character and have been beating great players on the way. But like we said earlier, it's still doing really well.
And none of them are being rewarded for being decent human beings. They're not getting little candy packages in the mail from NCSoft.
I don't know if it dominates the free-to-play market, but it does pretty well.
It does well, obviously. Yeah, we talked about it at the beginning. Deuces 2710. Deuces wrote a lot of feedback for us. Thank you, by the way. There's a lot of people this week that put quite a bit of feedback, so I had to break some things up. Deuces had both an A-bomb and a weekly question answer, so I split this one up, so you'll hear Deuces 2710 again. But for the weekly bomb, says, want to give an A-bomb to Digital Extremes and Warframe. They've angered a lot of veteran players with the recent rushed patches and have weakened Warframes in response to the Syndicate rep grind exploit, and have left a lot of more crucial bugs like Arcwing enemies stuck in asteroids and being disconnected from missions when the game migrates hosts unfixed.
Oh my God! And you know why they released a bad patch?
Mustaches.
Perfect world.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 3%. It's all Perfect World's fault. I blame it on the mustaches, particularly one in particular. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out Jason Winters. Yeah, check out Jason Winters' post about their mustache competition. Last week's question of the week was, will Overwatch, the new title announced by Blizzard, be free to play? Yes or no, and why? Go ahead, sir.
Okay, this is a big one, which you said you edited down.
Yeah, so I edited this down, believe it or not.
All right, I gotta take a drink. All right, Regular Strider says, I could see Overwatch going either way in regards to free-to-play or buy-to-play, but I think it's intended for buy-to-play. So far, we know about 12 characters, which would be pretty light in regards to buyable content from a business perspective for free-to-play. The other games, such as Hearthstone and Heroes, have much more content in them, which adds to their current success. Buy-to-play also makes sense to me because a lot of successful PvP-focused first-person shooters work under the same idea. Call of Duty, Titanfall, Destiny to a lesser extent, and even Team Fortress 2 is buy-to-play at first and still popular. In addition, when TF2 went free-to-play, it already had a large established audience, making the transition smooth. This is a newer IP, and while making the game accessible to everyone to pick up and to play would not be wrong, I feel it would need a stronger following and more content for the model to work at launch. That's a good point when he talks about Team Fortress 2. I mean, we talk about it being compared to that a lot, and I didn't totally forgot that Team Fortress 2 was a box game buy to play when it first came out. So I guess that makes sense, and it could go that route.
Yeah, the great points across the board. The only one that I would call out is that so far we only know about 12 characters. There were 12 playable characters at BlizzCon. We know about 15 because they released a poster that had 3 extra characters on it at BlizzCon. And then we also know that they plan on adding a vast array of new heroes. So I think Heroes is actually a viable sales purchase like Heroes of the Storm, or at least it will be. Everything else in there, dead on. I mean, I couldn't argue with any of it.
Sure.
Deuces 2710, longtime listener to the podcast, first time commenting. Thank you.
Second time, really, if you count.
Well, second time, because I had to do this in reverse order. I think if Overwatch were to be free-to-play, it would be to compete better with the hosts of free-to-play shooters that exist now, like Team Fortress 2, Firefall, PlanetSide, Blacklight, etc., etc. And that's kind of where you and I fell on the last episode, too, was their competition was the target.
Right, and that's the counterpoint, is that, yeah, Team Fortress 2 used to be buy-to-play, but it's not now. You're not competing with Team Fortress 2 from 2009. You're competing with the current one, and so you almost have to match it by being free-to-play.
Last one, all yours, sir.
All right, from V2099, answer of the week, Overwatch seems like Blizzard's version of Gearbox's Battleborn. For the most part, I think it'll be like League of Legends, where you get a set of free-to-play characters, and then you have to buy the later editions. That's an interesting point. I don't think they'd do it like a rotation, like in League of Legends. I think it would be, you have a set number of free characters, like he says there, and then you buy more later on if you want. Yeah, maybe with a rotated one of those every now and then.
I could see it like very similar to Smites, right? Okay. Where you get that loadout of gods at the beginning, then you can buy individual gods, or you can just say, hey, here's a lump sum of money, and then all gods that come out from now on, I'm going to get and everything you have. I could definitely see that type of free-to-play too. Question of the week this week: has the League of Legends community improved over the last year, in your opinion, or is Riot's stat just a bit misleading? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget your weekly bombs. Dub-bomb for something good, A-bomb for something bad in the free-to-play market, or hell, if you're Jason Winter, you can just make it about whatever you want. Doesn't even have to be free-to-play. His controller rocks, though. Mr. Winter, where can everybody follow you, sir?
You can follow me on Twitter at WinterInformal. I stream at twitch.tv/JasonWinter, where I play games that sometimes use a controller. And then I'll be on I blog, jasonwinter.wordpress.com.
Awesome. I'm Magic. Whoop, that's I need. There we go. There's me. You'll see that slide in just a second. I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magic Man. You can follow me at MagicMan1 on Twitter. That's MAGICKMAN1, or on MMOBomb, where we're both writing and posting and chatting and doing all kinds of fun things, including streaming. See you in 15 minutes. Bomb live. Later.